Like I said, SDS has been around for a long time, and those of you who are very close to me see him as one of the most articulate person you meet, and you are going to see that in his delivery today.
We want to have citation of our distinguished guest speaker. When somebody is already a distinguished and now is also a distinguished guest speaker, so if you see me mentioning distinguished twice, you should understand it's not that I'm stammering. I want to read the citation now, sir. So, do I have the directive of all of you to ask you to stand up and remain standing? Oga police make you no first in a play. Balógun ní mi ṣùgbọ́n sẹ́ni mo máa ń dánwò lábújá ẹni tẹ̀rẹ̀ ra rí wọ́lọ́wọ́ ìdájá cassation. Senator Shuaib, you can check page 8. I will just read a brief version since it's written here. Senator Shuaib Afolabi Salisu, fondly called SAS, is a Nigerian computer scientist, IT entrepreneur, and politician. Born on August 4, 1964, in Okpeji community within Odeda local government area of Ogun State. SAS embarked on its academic journey at the community primary school before furthering his education at Ogun Grammar School, both situated in community. His pursuit of knowledge led him to the prestigious University of Lagos, where he attained 2 master's degrees in computer science and business administration, a testament to his scholarly dedication and intellectual prowess. Throughout his illustrious career, SAS has left an indelible mark across various sectors, particularly in the information technology industry. He has lent his expertise to prominent institutions such as the defunct Equatorial Trust Bank, Pacific Merchant Bank, and Devcon Merchant Bank in the banking sector, while also making significant contributions to the oil and gas industry through his tenure with Total and Mobil oil producers. Additionally, he stands as the founder and CEO of Cypress Automation System Limited, a confirmation of his entrepreneurial acumen and innovative spirit. What else? It's too long. Let me conclude by saying Senator Salisu has been an active participant in the deliberations at the Nigerian Senate, where he has made significant contributions on matters of both national significance and those specifically concerning his constituents. Notably, he played a pivotal role in addressing the actions of officers from the Nigerian Customs Service who unlawfully raided shops in various marketplaces across the Abeokuta metropolis under the pretext of seizing bag of rice. You remember that case? This was the man who allegedly smuggled into the country through land borders. Senator Salisu firm denouncement of this action prompted the whole Senate to the cessation of such unwarranted intrusions by custom officers. Of particular significance is Senator Salisu's proposed bill on the National Internship and Unemployment Scheme, designed to enhance the welfare of unemployed graduates nationwide. This legislative endeavor underscores his commitment to addressing present socio-economic challenges and fostering a brighter future for all. Senator Salisu's journey embodies a testament to the transformative power of visionary leadership and steadfast commitment to the principles of democracy and social equity. Senator Salisu is going to talk to us on changing Nigeria's consumption-based economy to a service and production-based economy. Join me in welcoming this distinguished politician, a nationalist, my distinguished Senator Shuaib Afolabi Salisu to the podium. The Senator, sir.
Alhamdulillah alladhi anzala furqan al-abdi ليكون للعالمين نذيرا ونصلي ونسلم على من لا نبي بعد المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We give praises and thanks to Allah who has sent down the criterion on his servant to serve as a wonder to mankind and also bring glad tidings. We ask him to do what Allah will do anyway, which is to send his trusted blessings on the prophet after whom there will be no other prophet. His name is Muhammad. If you are not too busy, join me and say Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa sallim. Brothers and sisters in the deen of Allah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is customary to say that the protocols have been established and to skip the protocols. But usually for me, protocols is part of my lecture. And therefore I want you to listen as I go through the protocols, not just as a routine, but to lay the foundation for my lecture. Therefore, let me start with the Vice Chancellor of this great university. The university with the most adorable, the most beautiful campus on the continent of Africa. University that its history could be sufficient as lecture today. If you go back to the establishment of this university, the pride, the era in which this university was established, the glory it has attained, and the current situation, you'll probably be able to situate the Nigerian situation within that context. So I must start with the Vice Chancellor, Professor Bamide, ably represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor and me, Professor Darabala, the Vice Chancellor, sir. The chairman of today's occasion, my brother who has some very kind, generous words for me. And when he was speaking, I was actually asking whether he was referring to me or he was setting some form of aspiration for me to aspire to. I must introduce him very properly because a number of initiatives that I've taken in my life, both as a community and as an individual, always has the same imprimatur. But sufficient to say that this man is a product of a community called Secretary. Don't bother to Google, you may not find it. But he was lucky enough to move from that rustic community. And of course, he attended a university that's not too far from his village, University of Ile-Ife. And he made a very good showing here. And I'm saying this for the younger element who are in the audience. He did not attend ISL or ISI, nor the University of Ife secondary school. He attended a community school. And today, he has had many degrees, not just from Ife, from UNIFEMGA, and including an international degree, PhD. I tried to use this, and I remember an incident had happened in my very first year at the University of Lagos, Department of Computer Science, where one of my colleagues stood up and wanted to make an announcement in the class. And in the course of that, I said, children. And then one of those girls who attended Corona, all those eyebrow schools, came up and said, it's not children, it's children. I said, okay, no problem. I stood up and said, whether children or children. After this first semester, we will know the difference. And truly, after the first semester and the first year, we brought our secretary of Beji community, and we showed them that we might not have been tutored how to pronounce children, but when the opportunities are equalized, when the secretary community, Beji community, Ife community, when they meet with children from Igbo communities, the opportunity will be truly equalized. So, Mr. Tony Kukola, you have done very well for your community. At least you are a superstar, and I'm sure the other children from your communities will take a cue from that. So I'd like to recognize the chairman of today's occasion. The chairman of Board of Trustees is our own Imam Alhaji Rafi Obitu. I must also thank you as well. Again, for those of you who are in the audience, the younger elements, there was no renowned epithet before him. So again, he has also flown the flag of his family name and is doing very, very well as well. Again, we are proud of the trajectory of everyone on this item, with the exception of the Vice Chancellor that I cannot speak about, because I do not know whether university have arrangement that if you misbehave in another university, they can withdraw your certificate the other way. I'm not going to talk about the Vice Chancellor. With this exception, everybody in this audience and on this table, they are not atakpata today. Indeed, they are atiere for today. And today, I move on to someone that, whether it's a fortune or misfortune to meet now, I was gentle before I met him. And nobody could attest to that. In fact, the testimonial from my primary school, secondary school said he's an unassuming, gentle, until I met this brother, this brother this year. And the way he's looking at me, it's likely to show his color as a very troublesome man after this lecture. But suffice to say as well, back at the university, particularly in the Muslim Student Society of Nigeria, and I'll get to that shortly, we had a few of them that we are looking forward to. That when others were going to London during summer, we will go to IBC, Jabushasha. When they go to America, we will go to the Kedaro. And we saw a few of them that they were constant in the MSS. And we found out that not only were they constant, they finished top of their class. And we also made a commitment that we will do MSS and we'll finish top of our class. But what we did back in was that in the process as well of learning their scholarship excellence, we were also imbibing their pattern. So Professor of Practice, Yusuf Olaolu Ali SAN, who as the Pro-Chancellor of Osun State University, you turned things around. Now you are coming to my university, Federal University of Abekuta, in Odeda local government where I was born. And you are coming at a time, 3 weeks ago, I was at Federal University of Abekuta, and I will talk about this more eloquently down the line. And I invited the Vice Chancellor. How could you be a Federal University of Agriculture? Indeed, we are the best in Africa and number 7 in the world. And yet the immediate community could not feel your impact. So I therefore asked him to convene a meeting of the university community, and I was there about 2 weeks ago. And we agreed on a number of things. Number one, I'll be bringing farmers from the communities, you'll be training them. Number two, your students will become extension service workers to the farmers. And number three, I'll be bringing unemployed youth who want jobs, truly jobs. I'll be bringing them to the university to train them in agri-entrepreneurship and also offer to do the road that led to the university. Now that you are coming as a Pro-Chancellor, it cannot be a better time for me for this partnership that I just struck with Federal University of Agriculture and now with the Pro-Chancellor that I know is a bulldozer. Rest assured that you'll find in me a worthy partner in this job. So, Mr. Pro-Chancellor, I'd like to thank you. Professor Abubakar Salisu, he has distinction of being an imam as a student and has remained an imam. And it's also sufficient for you students to know that it's also a physician of repute. And therefore, whenever we volunteer, either as students or in any capacity, UNIFEMGA, UNILIFE alumni, We are not only providing service, but we are actually building our own capacity. We are building exercise, mental exercise. It's the same as physical exercise. When you physically exercise, you are building your muscle. When you also mentally exercise, you are also building yourself. Professor Abubakar Sanusi, I'm not sure there will be any other university or any other student that will have the distinction of being imam as a student and you remain an imam. May Allah be to our imam, or the day we Allah say, Yaman Adel Kola Nas Imam, a day will come where we will call everybody to their imam. May you be able to lead us on that day. The chairman, Mr. President of UNIFEMGA, just know it's not out of disrespect that I didn't recognize you earlier. In fact, there's also ranking in presidency. I was also president of Unilag Muslim Alumni, so I'm a senior president. But I've reserved your recognition till now in order to give recognition to our bonds. But I must recognize our wife. If not that a number of you are looking at me, I will have taken my mullet, but it's okay. I'll take it sometimes later. Professor Latifa Durosimi. And for those of you who are girls, again, listen to me. Professor Latifa Durosimi is an accomplished academic. For some women, you only describe them by their husband. You only simply say, oh, Professor, you know this woman, she's the wife of Professor Muizdin Durosimi. Professor Muizdin Durosimi is also, and you begin to describe the husband because there's nothing to the woman to describe. But in this case, this woman is also a colossus in our own right. And for those of you who are guests over there, this is a woman who has also led Federation of Muslim Women Association of Nigeria, Form 1, amongst many other national assignments she has handled. Therefore, for those of you who think child education is not important, take a cue from Professor Mrs. Latifa Durosimi, and despite our academic prowess, I'm still a Babako, and I still take a bullet once in a while. There are so many of you here, Brother Aliu Badmus. Brother Aliu, if Professor Oduduwa is the Vice Chancellor of the Ibadan School, of course, you know you are the Dean in charge of a particular faculty. Kunle Odeyinka, I believe you are former president of UNIFEMGA. We met sometimes in the course of my professional calling in 1984 when I was head of technology of a bank. And you are there working for Unilag Computers, I believe. And your organization did something that was not right. And I took it out of you before I knew that you are my Muslim brother. And since then we forged a very strong bond. And I use you as a point of contact for all the practitioners in the IT sector. I'd like to call you you can. Professor Musa Aibino, Vice Chancellor and a Professor of Mechatronics. Bashir Lawal, we were together in Dublin Guru number 14 in Mushin. Professor Kende Oseni, Chairman, OAU Muslim Community, I thank you, sir. And I'd like to thank the Lighthouse Estate members who are here specifically. Lighthouse remains, even for me, a greater achievement maybe than the Senate. Some of you will probably, will recognize that Lighthouse was a culmination of a number of experiences, some that failed, some that we are dreaded about, but eventually we had something that we could show to the world that Muslims could do something together. So those of you who are from Lighthouse, my architect is here, one of Ile-Ife, and your lovely wives, and other members from Lighthouse. I saw the companion national amir there, Engineer Kamil Olalekon. The chapters of UNIFEMGA, I greet all of you, particularly the Ogun State chapter, UNIFEMGA. Anywhere you go and you don't find Ogun State, don't stay there. Whether on the high table or the low table. Even the professor of practice, you you find a way of coming to Ogun State, either as pro-chancellor, no matter we must come. Yes, brothers and sisters in the deen, let me now go to my lecture, rather than a speech, and for want of a better arrangement, I'm going to go through this way. There will be introduction, and then from there I go to the economy of Nigeria beyond statistics. And then number 3, what are the causes of our current situation and the consequences? I will proceed to share my thoughts on the path to economic recovery, the pains, the gain, the prospects. And then I'll share snippets from other countries. The one that I think is most important to me is the question I'm going to ask you as an individual, if you are in Nigeria, or rather, if you are a country on your own, as an individual. And I'll be sharing some thought about that. And then, of course, lastly, I'll be going through some conclusions. As a matter of introduction, University of Ife, this campus will continue to hold very special attention for me. After all, my friends, my closest friends, the highest concentration of them are graduates of this university. In fact, even more than those who attended University of Lagos, I have the greatest number of friends, associates, and allies. And I can't continue to mention some of them. Some of them are here, some of them are abroad, including Ibrahim Ibisomi. So any opportunity to come to the University of Ife, I will gladly come. Number 2, for the IT industry, I studied computer science when there were only 4 universities in the country offering computer science. And University of Ife was one of them. And I remember the life of Professor Jayesimi, Professor Dikin Bayo Akinde, and a number of them were from here. And indeed, one of the presidents of Nigeria Computer Society that came to see me, this one, Professor Aderogun, was also here. So in terms of my industry as well, University of Ife is also one of those focal points that offer computer science, and the graduates of the computer science have also done very well for themselves. I'm an associate member of UNIFEMGA, whether you like it or not, and this is not the place to be arguing as whose jollof rice is better. Even the best of you usually find yourself in Lagos. 1 degree here, 2 masters in Lagos. And then University of Ife as well. It's also our common patrimony in Western region. It's a university like no other university. University Ife was established, and it remains a metaphor of what Nigeria could do when more powers were devolved to subnationals. University of Ife is also a manifestation of a vision. That with the right vision, University of Ife was established at a time when WMPC was also established. Nigeria had television before France had television. Can you believe that? This was a time when UCH was number 2 hospital in the Commonwealth, and Commonwealth included Canada, New Zealand, Australia, including UK itself. This was at a time when the King of Saudi Arabia would come to our tertiary institution here. So this is not just for you who have attended University of Ife. This is our common patrimony. And therefore, when we talk about equal opportunities and the challenges that we have now, a constant review of the history of University of Ife itself will tell us how a vision germinated from a seed to an oak tree, and then reached a plateau, and then there was a downward spiral. We must therefore go to the basics. Therefore, every time we want to talk about this topic, we will also talk about University of Ife. So for me as well, coming here is also coming to our common patrimony as Western region. And by the way, the man that the university has been named after is also one of the greatest gifts of Ogun State to the world. And lastly, I must also commend UNIFEMGA. And I say this with a sense of responsibility. I've been president of the University of Lagos Muslim Alumni. You are one of the most closely knit alumni associations anywhere in Nigeria. you remain focused, and you remain balanced in your activities. Catering to all the needs of your members. And I must thank you at a time when some ugly tendencies rear its head in the MSS of this university. UNIFEMGA, you rose to the occasion, you nipped it in bud, and you restored sanity. University if a Muslim Prayer Association UNIFEMGA, you should be proud of yourself for what you have done. You have become like a cult in a way that you relate to each other and you always come back to connect to your alma mater. I commend you very, very seriously for this. And I think other alumni associations have one or two things to learn from UNIFEMGA. Now we've gone through the introduction. Let's go to the economy. What do I need to tell you about the economy? Is it about the inflation that is hovering between 33 and 34%? Or about the exchange rate that's about 1,400 naira at a point? It was 1,900 to a naira. It's about 1,400 now. And at the point we thought we had made some gains. Then we also have back now the instability in the exchange rate. Do I need to tell you about the fuel scarcity? As I speak with you now, my team have gone to look for fuel. Because I didn't want to get late here, I couldn't buy fuel on the way. Or see the unemployment rate. There's none of you here who hasn't gotten a ranking member of the unemployed in your family. There's none of you here that is not being daily bombarded by requests for employment or about the fiscal deficit, that we cannot fund our development projects. Every year we have deficit with a hanging foreign debt on our neck. Or you know that the middle class administration employ what they call ways and means. Ways and means simply mean print notes. Notes that are not backed by any productive activity. What do I need to tell you about that? Do I need to tell you that a number of you are not disciplined but you're going out now because of the cost of fuel, or about the diesel, about sometimes the engagement, the harrowing experience of our wives trying to manage the insufficient housekeeping allowance. I could give you statistics of GDP growth, but the issue is that did the pocket grow or did you fare better? These are challenging times for us as a country, and I speak here both as an individual and as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There are challenges that we are facing today. However, a few things are worthy of note. Number one, it is cyclic in Nigeria. Those of you who are sufficiently old enough, you remember austerity measures, don't you? After that, we have structural adjustment program. After that, we had another period where we developed national economic and development strategy. That was also Vision 2010, Vision 2020. What we have here now, but Catholic and down in the Yamabine and North, Allah said this is how we alternate this for mankind. Sometime of prosperity will come, and sometime adversity will come. And anyone who is over 40 years will have experienced 3, if not 4, of these cycles. So it's not something new. Number 2, it is also global. As we are facing it now, if you have a friend who has DAPA, and he will be truthful to you, he will also tell you that the grass is not only that it's not clean, it's brown on the other side. Both in the UK and the US. I was in England about a few weeks ago, and a young man who does 3 jobs. He has a regular job, he does a DJ job, and he also uses his car for Uber. And so for the period I was in England, I just engaged him. I said, okay, yes, just take me around. I'll pay you what you get from your Uber. And he told me he pays £1,700 per month on rent. 1,700 per month, pounds for rent. That's 3.something million naira per month. If you analyze that, about 40-something million. So I asked him, why are you paying so much rent? Why don't you buy the house and be paying mortgage? He said, I need £70,000 cash to put down to be able to qualify for mortgage, and I don't have £70,000. and it's been in the UK for 20 years. So, it is global. If you also go to the US, something like that is also happening. So it's not peculiar to Nigeria. But as a country, we're a country with people who have strong passion for lamentations and negative narrative about ourselves. If there's anything that's also noteworthy, it's also we have an administration in place that I think has the courage to take the tough decisions. It may not always be right, but it also has the flexibility to revise itself when they think things are wrong. We have an administration that would necessarily create transactions, if you understand what I mean. And therefore, when transactions are created, the economic activities will boom. It is the interest of the government and those who operate this government that transactions will be created. We also have in place an administration that I think is focused and responsive to the yearning of Nigerians. This might not be sweet to say now, but the truth of the matter is that some of the decisions that have been taken, that have been inflicted this pain or not, if this decision had been taken some 8 years ago, we probably would have been better off as a country than what we have now. Therefore, we have pains, and the gains will take some time to materialize. But I have no doubt that it's not a simple economy that you cannot continue to have fuel subsidy at the rate we are having it. It is not something that can continue by creating difference between the official exchange rate and the black market rate, leaving room for a number of arbitrage. We have become a country of rent seekers. So just imagine somebody buying dollar at 400 naira from CBN without even seeing the dollar, without touching it, and being able to sell it at 800 naira. Then 100% profit, 100% margin, and there are people that the only thing they were doing was that. That cannot continue. We must necessarily take that decision. But of course, what it does mean is that there will be immediate pains as we are having. But as I said, these are decisions that require some courage on the part of government, and I believe this current government has the ability to make such decisions. If you are to summarize what are the reasons for economic woes, I will summarize it into three. Number one, underutilization of resources. When I say underutilization of resources, it's a country that we have vast arable land for agriculture. Those lands are land value. They cannot even be capitalized for the purpose of getting loans. If you look at federal secretariat in Ikoyi, just imagine that federal secretariat in Ikoyi has been converted to an SME hub. The federal secretariat is lying low in Ikoyi as we speak now. If you take a look at NIPOST, NIPOST has become more of a real estate company than a postal service. And if you look at, and I give a few examples, there's no state that does not have very big post offices. What happens at those post offices as we speak now? If you go to Ikoyi, Falomon, you see NIPOST, you will see a post office there, and you see vast land accompanying the post office. That land is a wasted asset. It's a dormant asset that we need to. So, number one problem with the country is underutilization of resources. And I'll be talking about that later. The second problem that we have is that we have also underinvested in critical infrastructures. Okay? In some other clients, if I were to come to Ile-Ife from Lagos or even from Abuja, Apula will take train. And train will probably take me here, or I fly to Ibadan and I take train. I have had to come all the way from Lagos, and I've run through a number of challenges on the way to getting here. So we have not made investment in critical infrastructure. One of them is energy. Just imagine that refineries, we have crude oil here. Refining the crude oil is a problem. It's just like having a father who's a farmer, and he has cassava farm that is so expansive, and yet you cannot have garri in your house because you cannot they cannot translate cassava into gas. So we have the second challenge of underinvestment in critical infrastructure. Number 3 is also we have structural bottlenecks. In one breath, we want foreign direct investments to come into the country. In another breath, even to collect the Nigerian visa. Go and try it. You think UK visa is difficult to obtain? You think US visa is difficult to obtain? Ask your friend who wants to come to Nigeria to go and try to obtain Nigerian visa. You will know that even Nigeria also has class when it comes to issuance of visa. Extremely very difficult. We have some of such structural bottlenecks that not only spy our own development as a country, even those who are inviting to come, the structural bottlenecks, the clearance of customs, and the many checkpoints that you have on the road, as well as sometimes inconsistency between the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. Not too long ago, an attempt was made to change the Naira or to have a new design. The Deputy Minister of Finance was not aware. So how do you run a country that the Minister of Finance, the Chairman of the Coordinating, Minister of the Economy was not aware that Naira was to be redesigned? And there are so many stories of just one individual in the village determining what the new color of Naira could be. So we have a case of underutilization of resources, and I'm talking about that in more detail. We have underinvestment in infrastructure, a critical infrastructure, and number 3, we have a number of bottlenecks. So just imagine, and I give an example, this is a university. We have cases of first-class people who have graduated from this university, and yet we do not have enough academic staff. Because the process of engaging those young people and absorbing them into the system will require somebody head of service in Abuja to give approval. So you have first-class grade going out, and then you have the same set of lecturers, many of whom have become dinosaurs, who are still in the system. Apologies, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir. So we have a number of structures. I give another example. The road that passes through my house inside Abeokuta is a federal road. How will somebody know that the road that passes through Adato, Kuba, Shage, Agoka, Lafenwa, the main artery of the road in Abeokuta is a federal road? How will somebody in Mabushi, Federal Minister of Works, be aware that that road is a federal road? So we also have a lot of structural bottleneck. These are the 3 things that I believe slow down our growth and are responsible for our current economic challenges. And then what are the consequences of that? The consequences of this is that, of course, we have macroeconomic instability. No one can plan for 1 year. If you go and take a foreign denominated loan, you are in trouble. Even before you do anything with the money is gone. What about interest rate? I mean, you take interest rate and then the FPR will change by 4 basis points or 8. Your interest rate also goes skyrocketing. So we have macroeconomic instability. The second consequence of what I mentioned earlier was also the fact that we have external imbalances. I mean, trade balances with other countries, our foreign exchange reserve is dipping, and finally we have fiscal deficit. Government not being able to support the budget, and we keep borrowing, meaning that we need to service the debt. The percentage of servicing of the debt is more than the percentage we have allocated to infrastructure. But again, as I mentioned to you, it's not my intention to go through into deep economic thought. What is important is you feel it. No matter the statistic I want to give to you, you know that your pocket is feeling the statistics more than what Nigerian Bureau of Statistics will provide to you. What do I think we need to do? As a country, number one, I ask you this question. If they ask you, what is the American dream? what is the overriding ethos of American system? It's capitalism. You know about that. If you talk about China, you know they tend towards the left, communism. If you take a look at Israel, you may not even agree with them, but they have a national value and overarching thing that bring them together. Let me take the other extreme, Iran. They also have their own overarching national ethos, national dream. No country or no society has ever developed without some glue, national ethos, national value that bind them together. University of Ife was created at a time when Iṣẹ́ l'Oògùn Ìṣẹ́, múra sí iṣẹ́ ọ̀rẹ́ mi, Iṣẹ́ la gbé dẹni gíga was ethos of the Yoruba people. And at that point in time, it was a taboo to steal. It was a taboo not to be able to explain the source of your wealth. Hard work was it. And people also, even when you have the money, they say, okay, ethos. I am a senator of Ogun Central. This position was contested for by Alhaja Simbiat Abiola, wife of MK Abiola. He spent all of the money. But the very first time in Abeokuta, and I was a young lad, Abiola was disputing Kekerali, and Kekerali is the gross story of today. The Abeokuta people collected the money and said, Abiola, it's not the turn of your wife to be a senator. This is the man we're going to vote for. Abiola's money and his generosity did not persuade the Abeokuta people to vote for Abiola's wife. Abiola's wife, by the way, was also a son of a very illustrious Shuaib family in Abeokuta. If you don't have a national ethos, something that propels us, I'll take Rwanda as an example. Rwanda went through genocide. You know what? A number of people are going to Rwanda now for their retreat. Rwanda has come from the ashes of genocide. And you know what? It would be totally illegal to ask a Rwandan, where are you from? Totally illegal. Because they have used the experience of genocide to now created a new ethos, a new value, a new glue. You cannot ask someone whether it's a Tutsi or Gusu. You don't do that in Rwanda now. And brothers, so number one thing I believe we need to do, we must have some overarching national values, national ethos that glue all of us together. A university has its ethos. No matter how much provoked you are, I don't know about now, you don't fight physically. Up to now. Okay, I'm happy to say that that's a word. And sometimes people will say that about leadership, and I say it's not about leadership, it's about what we collectively agree to be our national ethos. I give an example. This is UNIFEMGA program. No matter how pervasive someone is as a drunkard, he will not come to national to this event with a bottle of alcohol in his hand. Even if he's the president, it's because all of us collectively have agreed that this is our national value, this is our ethos. If you don't, if you leave it to the leader alone, a time could have come when someone will be sufficiently out of his mind enough to say, well, you know, red wine is good for the heart. In fact, Dr. Salisu also said so. Amen. So this one is only 30% alcohol content. It's only because we have agreed as our national ethos, as our values, that this will not happen here. Unless and until we are going to have leadership that will emerge from us and will be one of us. So we need some national ethos that bind us together as a people. The number two thing, we also need some new measures of performance. You know what? As a politician, one of the greatest challenges we have is between doing those things that will bring lasting legacy, lasting impact, unemployment benefits, cyber security amendment, all of those ones. The benefits are only limited to the chambers of National Assembly. The people back at home, they measure you by the amount of okada you distribute, the amount of stomach infrastructure, the amount of hairdressing equipment to provide to people. I don't want to go down as a senator with the most Okada distribution. I will continue to do what I think is the right thing to do, but I know I run a business as well. One of the most prolific senators of the Ninth Assembly was one Senator Oduduwa from Ilorin. This man did a lot to change the face of the healthcare delivery system in Nigeria through policy interventions, through legislative interventions. But guess what? He did not even get a return ticket in his party. He didn't get a return ticket in his party. So, unless and until we also come as a people and agree on some new measures of holding people in public office accountable, we will be giving little dollars, little stipends that will not go to the root of our problems. But guess what? I can only say this here. I cannot go to my constituents and say, you know, I'm not going to give Okada. I will give them Okada. I will. Because they begin to measure you against another person who gives out Okada. I say, and guess what? On the day of election, you will not be there to salvage you. The people who are going to be there to vote, they don't listen to this rhetoric. There are people that are swayed by the immediate gratification that does not even solve their own problem. Those of us who think we need to do something differently will run the risk of inheriting the administration of you. Why do you think it's? Do you know MC Olomo? You all know. Do you know Auxiliary? You all know. Who is the chairman of Nigeria Medical Association Lagos State? Who is the president of Nigerian Bar Association? Who is the president of Nigerian Society of Engineers? You can't know. And this is an academic environment. But you know MC Olomo, you know Auxiliary. That is the irony of people in government. We would rather relate to those people. Because the vote of a Professor Yusuf Oladu and the SAN is one. That of the organizer at the gate is one. And I can guarantee the organizer to vote for me. I can't guarantee his availability to vote if I have gone to Geneva. Therefore, we must also come as a people and say exactly what do we want. You are familiar with this song. Kí lẹ dún gbé owó lẹ dún gbé kí ló fi ṣe aṣọ kí ló rà ẹ̀rẹ́ ẹ̀dújàlè. That was a time when Nigeria had value. When the cities of Lagos colony, they did not have the required visa to go to UK. So there was a case of an enemy that was working with the district office. And he took the money that was meant for the payroll to do something in the meantime, hoping that the money would return before the time for payday. The payday came, the money had not returned. Out of shame, he boarded the ship at night and never returned to Nigeria. Because the society itself then would have sacked on him. But now, the society will not only encourage him, they give him a chieftaincy title. Therefore, we must also come with some measures, new metrics, and this is where the elite will play some critical roles. Those of us who are in Lagos, we live in Lighthouse, and I asked them. There was a time there was a by-election in Etiosa, and I got to Ustra the following Sunday, and I asked them, and some of them are here, how many of you voted yesterday? And they asked me, was that the election yesterday? And I said, okay, wait a minute. And I called the drivers. 8 out of 10 drivers voted. The owners of the house were not even aware that there was an election. So why should I bother myself with you? Why would any politician bother himself with you when you will not even be there to salvage him? When the elite will also not come out to lead the conversation and lead the debate, and set the agenda. Number 3, I've spoken about activation of dormant national assets. How many do I have? 10. Activation of dormant national assets, and I'll give you the example before. We have land, all of us here. I'm sure we have family lands back in our villages. If you want 10 acres of land in Secretary, I don't even need to go there. Tony Popola will arrange for me. But I can't use that land because of land use degree that requires me to get a COO because all lands in the state are vested in the government of the state. And therefore we have lands that are valued. When next you fly down from Ibadan to Abuja or from Lagos, when the aeroplane is doing its final descent, just take a look at the land that we have. Dormant national land that cannot be converted to anything. Shouldn't we begin to look at a case of one village, one product? If this village is good with banana, let them concentrate on banana. If this village is good with cocoa, let them do cocoa. So we have dormant national asset that we need to convert. Diaspora, the data, they are also part of our assets. In the last 10 years, the diaspora remittances back home is about 5% of our GDP. In 2022, it's over 20. In fact, aside our revenue from oil, diaspora remittances is number 2. Is ahead. Let me say this again. Apart from the oil revenue, the number 2 in terms of foreign exchange is our diaspora remittances. Ahead of foreign direct investment, ahead of aid and grants. It means even those who are attacking, they're also part of it. What we need to do is to ensure that we channel those remittances into entrepreneurship, into infrastructure development, and also serve as palliative for their family. One area that can be contentious, but I will also mention as part of dormant asset is zakat. If you could get government to streamline zakat into our tax system, a number of more people will pay more taxes. And zakat quantum of zakat are more than the quantum of the personal income tax. Of course, when you say this, some people will say you want to Islamize the country, but the truth of the matter is that we are developing our own truth to cook. If you get the Muslims to pay more zakat, and those zakat are also recognized as part of the tax system, it might be one area that we need to look closely at. The same way Muslims fast without people looking after them, they will probably pay more zakat more voluntarily than the government tax system. And of course, the accountant will tell you there's a difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. Evasion is illegal, avoidance is but for a Muslim will not avoid zakat. And therefore, it might be part of the thing we need to begin to look at and factor it into our tax administration system. Perhaps it will also improve our earnings. Lastly, on this, because I'm going to go to an issue that I think is important to me. I've spoken about infrastructure, ease of doing business, ICT, of course, ICT as a sector, and ICT as an enabler of other sectors, in terms of efficiency, in terms of corruption, in terms of cost of governance. If you automate and you minimize the discretion available to desk officers, you have eliminated corruption to a large extent. I'm proud of what we have done at JAM in my previous life as a public officer now. I'm proud of what we have done. Admission process now is streamlined. The admission officers, both in JAM and the desk officer in their tertiary institutions, they have minimal discretion now. And that's the power of automation. If you do not automate, and you still give the desk officer the ability to determine whether to serve you or not to serve you, you have created an environment for corruption to thrive. You remember, some of you will remember that if you are in Abuja and you wanted to go to Lagos, there were only 2 or 3 places you could buy ticket. either Sheraton or Hilton, or you go to the airport. And as you are approaching the airport, the staff are approaching you to say, where are you going? And they will put their own premium on the ticket. But guess what? Who goes to the town now? We can book your flights online. I believe automation will reduce cost of governance, it will minimize corruption, and also free some of the resources that are otherwise tied down. In the short term, I believe that government should give palliatives, but I don't think those palliatives are the true solution to our problem. We need some targeted stimulus for some industry, to stimulate some industry, and to ensure that those stimulus packages are well utilized, particularly for some sector of the economy that are believed to be very critical. Agriculture is one of them. I do not think also salary increase is the problem. Some of you remember Oduduwa Hall and inflation. Another thing, what needs to be done is to find out what the staff, what the worker spends his money on, and reduce the cost of those items. So rather than give a salary increase that will also feed into inflation, why not to do analysis of what exactly the worker spends his money on? He spends his money on transportation. What can we do to reduce the cost of transportation for him? He spends his money on energy. What can we do to reduce the cost of energy? He spends money on accommodation. What can we do to ensure that the rent comes down and the houses become cheaper? If you approach it that way, you will stem inflation, and you also minimize unnecessary agitation among workers. Now let me now go to the final one that I think is more important to me than the rest of it. And if you want countries that have gone through this part, you can look at India, you can look at UAE. You know UAE and Qatar, their population is about 3 million, 4 million. Guess what? The citizens of those countries are 300,000, 400,000. They are less than 10% of the total population. Okay, but let me now go to the one that I think is important to all of us. Brothers and sisters in Islam, economy of any country can go through ups and downs. What you need to ask yourself is, how do I manage myself in this economy? And I think that's the bottom line. Everything I've said earlier, they are not in your control. What is in your control is to manage yourself as a country. If I were a country, what will I do for myself? And I have a few thoughts. Number one, I think we need to deal with reality as it is, not what we think it should be. And I said that again. A number of people, this is reality. This is where we are now. Rather than lamenting and say, in US, they have a national health insurance scheme. In UK, they have unemployment. But we are not in UK, we are not in US. Why don't you look at where we are and deal with the reality of where we are? A number of people that don't even have passports, they have not been to Togo. They will say in other countries, only Nigerians can have. Where have you been to? Where have you gone? Then you are saying only here. Have you been there before? So let's deal with the reality as it were and have a positive attitude. As bad as this country you think it is, there's no time you get to our international airport that new people are not coming to take advantage of this country. There's not a time. Even when the United States Department of State will issue travel money, travel advisory, they will ignore, they will come. Only here you can make stupendous profit on your investment. Therefore, have a positive attitude. Number two, you must also have a vision of what you want to be. I contested 5 times before I became a senator, 2007, 2011, 2015, 2019, and eventually 2023. But I always wanted to be a senator from my university days, particularly when the Senate was at TBS. And in order to prepare myself, I was a student senator in the Student Representative Council. So when I was failing every time, what did it fail in me was my determination to be a senator. So therefore, we must also, as individuals, some people will go for interview and they will ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? You say, only Allah will determine that. Okay, go and take your job from Allah. Yes, just go. Go to Kaaba and say, Allah, give me the job. We live every day without a plan of exactly what we want to achieve. We develop capacity for lamentations and not doing. When we taught in Lagos, there were only 2 Muslim schools, Al-Furqan and Al-Alim, and some of us, our children, attended those schools. And we thought those schools were not enough. We sat down together as a companion and we made conscious decision to establish school. We established pillar school, we established teenage, we established, as we speak now, among the companion and criteria, the number of schools that we have established can be less than 20. You must determine, you cannot be lamenting about the system when you can do something about the system. The lighthouse estate that we stayed in Lagos today was also a product of that experimentation. We gathered together and said we could build an estate that is exclusively for us, that will live our value. And today, alhamdulillah, we have an estate as the model. So we must have a vision for yourself. People wake up every day. They don't know where they are going. So anywhere they get to is where they are going. Therefore, if we as an individual leave Nigeria as a whole, Nigeria is not about to change. Nigeria will happen to you, you will happen to Nigeria. But what you can control is yourself. Some of you are in the academics, you must have a vision where you want to be. Those of you are entrepreneurs, you must have a vision where you want to be. You must be clear. If you are not clear as to where you want to go, anywhere the wind blows to is where you get to. Number 3, personal development. A number of us, from our first degree, we have never had another certification. We spend our time on things that do not matter. I am a computer scientist, therefore the only thing I can talk about is IT. I am a lawyer, I do not know anything about the economy. Even some of you, even as elected and educated you are supposed to be, you don't have a copy of the Nigerian budget. The budget that's supposed to impact on you. And if you don't have a copy of the budget to be able to know the opportunity in the budget, what to tell to the people in the villages. Personal development. Number 4, you must be deliberate about looking for opportunities. People will come to me and say, particularly when I was chief of staff, what is on the table? I said, no, only facts are on the table. Nothing on the table. Nothing on the table. But if you come back to me and say, oh, I have thought about this value, this idea that can create value, then I don't want to listen to you. If you come to me and say, oh, there's a pain Nigerians are going through, I have a solution to it, yet I want to listen to you. And by the way, for those of you who think that the economic situation in Nigeria is so bad that there are no opportunities, let me give examples. Some of you read Fortune 50 magazine. That magazine came when there was an economic meltdown in 1928, and everybody was scattered. Some people gathered themselves together and said, okay, can we begin to write about the economy, about how to prevent this? And that's why the Fortune 50 magazine that you are reading today. LinkedIn came in 2002. What happened? There was a .com boom. There was a boom of .com. Everybody invested in .com in Silicon Valley. Then all of a sudden, the boom became a doom. People were jobless. And then some people came together and said, you know what we can do? Let's create an opportunity for people to exchange their CVs so they can look for jobs. Microsoft came on the back of similar crash in 1975 to 1978. Some of you did not know about Zoom before. If you are told about Zoom 5 years ago, you think Zoom is a camera. But then there was a COVID. And then Zoom became prominent. As we speak, the gloom and the boom are 2 sides of a coin. If you look at the gloom, you remain glued to adversity. If you look at the boom, you are on the way to opening doors to prosperity. The church is entirely your own. Number 5, and I need to say this. Please take care of your health. In the last 1 week, 2 people that I know very, very closely, a member of National Assembly, a member of Rep from Jigawa, he was at the plenary on Tuesday, Wednesday or so. He slumped and died on Thursday. And I was saying in the plenary. Somebody, a high-ranking member of Lagos State Cabinet, also slumped, and in this last 1 week as well, and then so died. You know, the truth of the matter is that the number of you here may not even know your genotype. You don't even know your BP history. You do not even know whether you have diabetes. to spend some little amount of time and money to even do a routine check. And guess what? This does not cost so much. You don't have to be as rich as Oduduwa. With less than 150,000, 200,000 naira, they will do a number of tests, including prostate enlargement for PSA. And you know the name. I do the test. Brothers, you need to take up your head. We live sedentary life. Some of you don't exercise. You do not even take time to rest and go on vacation. A Nigerian will take vacation, will take holiday from work. He will be more stressed when he returns back. Because you will have programmed a number of things for that vacation. So that when he comes back, you will ask him, did you go to a slave trade? Let's take care of our health. And finally, don't let us forget the number one reason why we are here, which is Allah. And I need to make it very clear. The worship of Allah can come in various forms. The chairman BOT, he has taken on the job of Muslim. That's the worship of Allah. When you are a lecturer and you impart knowledge, that's the worship of Allah. You are a medical doctor and you do your service very well, that's a service to Allah. If you are a legislator and you legislate very well, that's a service to Allah. And sometimes, and I'll conclude this way, sometimes we think we're just insignificant. We just think what we are doing is of little effect. That was what they call butterfly effect. And this was first popularized by Newton. And what he said is this. He said, if a butterfly is flapping its wing, we think, what dislocation in the air can this little flap do? Nothing. We think it's insignificant. But they did not do an experiment. That if the flapping of butterfly, if the butterfly flaps its wings consistently with other butterflies, it is sufficient to cause a tornado somewhere down the line. The same way a 1 decimal point shift. For those of you who are in computation, a 1 decimal point shift can result in a large difference in outcomes down the line. So when you see yourself and you ask, what can I do? What difference can I make in Nigeria? I am just a lecturer. I am just a student. I'm just a housewife. I am just a lawyer or an economist. I'm just one out of the many senators. Remember the butterfly effect. That when the butterfly flaps its wings consistently, repeatedly, that dislocation can cause a tornado sometime down the line. And a woman that put it more succinctly, and I will conclude on that, was Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa, as you know, was a nun somewhere in the Pakistan sub-region. And at the point when India was going through some difficulties, this woman who had no child of her own was picking orphans on the streets. And people went to her and said, of all the problems that we have, orphans are what we are picking on the streets. We are already overpopulated anyway. Even the children who have parents, we don't know what to do with them. How much more children who are orphans? Just allow them to be. And the woman replied, and she said, sometimes we think our effort is insignificant. We think we cannot make a difference. We think our effort is like a drop in the ocean, but the ocean will be less without that drop. Assalamu alaikum.
You can give him another round of applause if you choose. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. So you can see, for those of you who have been attending the union lecture for the past 20-something years, you know we normally have it written, isn't it? See, I just saw only 2 pieces of paper that he wrote the protocol list. And all those things that he was saying, he didn't write anything down. So we pray on Almighty Allah to continue to bless him. That is SAS for you. Thank you very much for that. But I just say that as somebody in the diaspora department, I'm of the Nigerian Diaspora Commission. He mentioned the issue of diaspora remittance. I quite agree with him 100%. But those are the former money that came into the former system. They are different from the money that you just go and see your uncle in UK and say, give $1,000 to Mama. All those ones are even more than the one that came into the other one. But this is the challenge to SAS and its other colleagues now. For the past 15 years, they have been rejecting diaspora voting in national assembly. Please join them to approve diaspora voting for us to increase our diaspora remittances.
This is a good species that can be presented anywhere. But for me, the ground deal of all the things I have said is for us to utilize and use those prescriptions. Many of us are just permanent protestants. We protest about just everything. Whereas for us, we should see opportunities in all challenges.
Sorry, sir, for disturbing you. I want you to come and help us present this, our token of appreciation to our distinguished Senator of the Federal Republic. We want our flag also at that national red chamber. Inshallah. Inshallah. Thank you. Any day man easily go around. That is the National Assembly. But it doesn't Senate meeting. Okay, and then I want your photos.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. His humility, his dedication. May Allah reward you in multiple. I'm proud to give you this. So we will induct you as a fellow of UNIFEMGA. And from there, I think give you honoraries Kosa. Salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you. Congratulations.